about the generation of musicians ahead of us. Of course, it was such a different world, and this hasn't gone away. There's always been this thing of like, oh, being a musician or an artist at least can have like this maybe kind of, and I think it's largely imagined, but this kind of cool factor, or like there's something cool, you know, about somebody doing that type stuff. But it's like, that's all imagined. Why are you doing it? Why are you making music? You have to do it for yourself. Like, if you don't love it,
if you don't love the process, is what I'm hearing.
You won't.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like you have to eschew anything else.
You're listening to the Ferment podcast, conversations about worship and transformation. Today's guest is worship leader and songwriter Glen Yoder.
What is up, everybody? In my office, but I'm not alone today. Nope. Got a friend here, Glen Yoder. What's up, dog?
What's going on, man?
That's right. Hey, your arm's in a sling.
Sure is. Yep.
What has happened to your arm?
It's been well over 20 years of troubles with my shoulder, and I finally got surgery.
Oh, man. I think I saw the scar the other day. There were a couple punctures.
Yeah.
What'd they do?
He cut in on the front and on the back, and he basically rebuilt the labrum and ligature and all that type of stuff.
Sounds serious.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think so.
Your eyes are clear today. Looks like you're not on the drugs like you were the last time I saw you.
I haven't taken any pain pills today.
How are the pain pills?
They're nice. I understand why people throw their lives away. I won't do that.
Thank you for not doing that. And we have that documented here on the podcast. Okay, so just one more question about your shoulder, and then maybe we'll come back to it here in a minute. We'll take a left turn. But why was your shoulder screwed up to begin with?
That's a good question.
You didn't play football.
One day me and God will have a come to Jesus moment, and we'll settle it once and for all.
So you're saying act of God? It's an act of God?
That was a bad blasphemous joke.
Yeah.
When I first went and was like, okay, I'm over this, I'm willing to finally do surgery, the first thing he did was he grabbed my shoulders and he like moved them around, and he was like, okay, so first of all, you're extremely loose jointed. Like very, very much so. And he did like these tests with my fingers and my wrists. And he was like, yeah, you're extremely loose jointed. And then beyond that, who knows how. I had injuries from skating. I had injuries from basketball. But at some point I tore like the ligature in my shoulder. It was just probably shredded.
It was just a trash boat.
It was a trash boat. I could dislocate my shoulder by moving my arm wrong.
I guess what I was getting at here is it had to be the skating though, right? Like, for those who don't know, Glen was semi-pro skater.
No, not at all.
I don't know. You jumped over wheelchairs with your skateboard.
Yeah, that's not a big deal, though. But yeah,
It feels like a big deal to me.
For 20 years ago, I was pretty good. Yeah.
But you took some slams.
Oh, there's no getting around it unless you're not going to get good. You got to pay to play. It's part of it. You could maybe avoid any serious slams, but you're also never going to do anything that's like
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm hearing is years and years of skateboarding caught up to slightly older Glen. This is what we have to look forward to.
Yeah. I mean, I was dealing with this even in my teens, though.
Okay.
I was dealing with this in my teens. I'm not sure skating was the impetus. It's possible, but I was set up. Well, let's put it this way. Pre-surgery, at least in recent years, I still skate. I don't play basketball anymore.
That's right.
Because I can't. Who knows, maybe in the future. But the movements and the things that you'd have to do with your arms, I was almost guaranteed. I quit playing a few years ago.
You just dislocated.
Every time, and extremely violently. Like really, really badly. And of course, I don't skate like I did in my younger years, of course. Yeah. But I haven't dislocated my shoulder skating, and I can't remember. Now, yes, in my younger days when I was pretty good and I did a lot more, I would dislocate it skating. Yeah. But like I said, I'd also do it playing basketball.
Did you ever kick flip over grandma?
No, I never kick flipped over grandma.
That would have been rad. Okay, so let's just take a left turn here. I think a lot of people at Vineyard Worship know who you are, but why don't you just tell everybody, who are you? Where'd you come from, Glen?
Well, my name's Glen. I'm from a little town called Big Hill, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
How'd you grow up?
I grew up there. I grew up playing music and I grew up skating, as we've already kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
Both were very
Yeah.
integral to my life. I started playing music, I think I was probably about 8. Skating came a bit later. I always wanted to, but I didn't have any guidance. And then I realized I could skate when I was like 14. Yeah, but I grew up in this little town, not even a stoplight. It's just my dad's gas station and scattered farms. That's the only thing. To this day, that's the only thing that's there.
Yeah.
It's just that little gas station and scattered farms.
And I think it's also important to note here, your brother is silicone boom.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question I have is, and I know you have other brothers and you got a sister, where'd the music come from? It's in you.
That's a good question.
It's in your brother Samuel. Where did that come from?
I mean, I've wondered myself. I'm not entirely certain.
Your parents, they weren't musical in that way, right?
No, my dad played the harmonica, but that was about the extent of their musical endeavors, their collective musical endeavors.
Great as they were.
Yes,
Yeah.
great as they were. But music, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Notwithstanding, music was always part of the house a little bit.
Like music was just in, like, being played?
It was being played. I definitely grew up with John Denver and like some old country stuff, and it was being played. And then it was being played by the kids as well. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. We were put in the music, or at least presented the opportunity, because several of us played. And then...
What did you guys play?
I started out on piano. I'm pretty sure everybody started out on piano. I think that's what I started playing when I was like 8 or so.
Yeah.
And then very soon after I played alone for a long time. But I had a natural kind of dexterity. And my brother...
Was it the loose joints?
Maybe. Dang loose joints.
Yeah. It's positives and minuses.
Yeah. And then my brother, he showed me arpeggios. And then that kind of opened the keyboard up for me. And then I just like kept playing and playing.
Was it Samuel or one of your other brothers?
It was Samuel. Yeah. But my brother Isaac played piano extensively. And my sister, she played for years as well. But, I mean, Samuel and I are definitely outliers.
Yeah.
We just kept going with it for sure.
And you guys write your own music.
Yeah.
When did you start that?
I was a late bloomer in that too. It didn't help growing up in Samuel's shadow.
Okay. Well, talk to me about that.
It's never been super easy it's not easy to anyone, I don't think. But he definitely had a natural knack for it, which I think is apparent. But he would come home from college and I just played music for a long time. And he would show me songs, and I would be like, dang, that's like really good. And it really was for a 20-year-old. He'd laugh at them now. We probably both would. But for a 20-year-old, they were good songs. It would be tantamount to some stuff you'd hear on the radio that's being dead serious. But so he was always really good. And I would try and tinker. I just couldn't really make it happen. And then, actually, I started listening to Ryan Adams. And that kind of kicked the door open for me a little bit. It's interesting, man. I always wanted to write. I can remember being a kid and holding this guitar. I was probably, I was young. I don't remember how old I was, and I obviously did not play the guitar yet. I was just holding it. I was trying to kind of figure it out a little bit. I was very young. And I remember I wasn't even with anybody. You know how when you're really little, your thoughts come together and form almost kind of randomly, and you'll put things together that are 2 + 2 to anybody with age. I mean, I was really young, but as I was holding that guitar, I remember it was when I realized, oh man, those songs that I hear on the radio, somebody created those.
It started in a moment like this.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's really cool. That's kind of amazing. And so it was always there that I like wanted to take part in that.
There's some kind of curiosity.
Yeah, it was like skating, to be honest. It was identical.
Yeah.
The two of the things that were so gravitational in my life were music and skateboarding. And it was the same, that thought I just described about songwriting, it was literally the same with skateboarding.
How did it feel or manifest in skateboarding?
When I first saw it, and I had no grid for what I was understanding, we're ex-Amish, we don't and we live in the country.
That seems important.
And we live in the country, and I had no reason to be drawn to it. But whenever I encountered it, I don't remember if it was in television or whatever, as soon as I saw it, I was like, just like my head and heart went, huh? It was just like a turning, like, what am I looking at? I was just like, that's amazing.
What was appealing?
It was very much like the songwriting thing. It was, I don't know why. There was something inside of me that was like, whoa, that's amazing.
What grabbed you with skateboarding? Was it like people doing tricks, or was it?
It wasn't necessarily the culture. I didn't know what the culture was because I didn't even have a touchstone to it. So like if you remember back in the 80s, like there was definitely this kind of rebel thing that surrounded it. And a lot of that stuck, even though it didn't even necessarily make a lot of sense. It was just like this outsider's perspective. So it wasn't any of that. It wasn't because I was trying to be a rebel or different. Whatever I saw in it was amazing to me. And I just thought, to be honest, it struck me as beautiful. Like it didn't make sense. Like what they're doing with their feet, with a piece of wood that's not attached to their feet, it's kind of magical. I still feel that way. I still do. I feel like even the ollie, it's kind of magical.
Yeah.
You know, you got this piece of wood and it's on wheels.
And somehow you kick it in the air.
I'm going to jump over this thing with it, and it's not attached to me. It's magical, you know?
Yeah.
And it struck me that way from the first time I ever encountered it. And it was the same with songwriting. And both of them also followed the same narrative in that, like, I didn't really take part in either because I didn't think I could. So, like, I didn't start skating until that was my first draw to it immediately. And I didn't start until I was 14, which in skateboarding, honestly, that's kind of a late bloomer. Yeah. I've always lamented it because if I had someone to like encourage me, I would have started when I was like probably 8, honestly.
Yeah. And also when you're 8, you just don't get hurt as bad.
For sure.
That's one of the things I've noticed with my kids growing up. Man, when they're like little kids, like 5, 6, 7, and 8 years old, you can't hurt them. You really can't.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Their bodies are lighter. They can just they can hit the ground. They're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of drew me to skateboarding. And I remember when I was holding that guitar and no one explained it to me. Like that's where I pieced it together. Oh, someone created these songs that I hear on the radio and these tapes and whatever we have. And I don't know how old I was then. I was very young. But it was similar. I was like drawn to it like, wow, that's amazing. But once again, I didn't start until very late because I just didn't think I could.
What's interesting about your story, or part of what I hear in your story, is skateboarding and music are in some ways vehicles out of the world that you grew up in or extensions beyond the world, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm just thinking of you, your family, you're ex-Amish, so culture is already different.
For sure.
And then you're in a really rural section of Kentucky, no stoplights. So one way, one way to reach out beyond that world.
For sure, it's funny.
So, to reach out beyond your Amish upbringing.
Yeah,
and then even beyond your Kentucky, like really, like for people who don't know, Big Hill it's the foothills of the mountains.
It is.
Which is not the same. Like
it's deep Kentucky, Appalachia.
That's right. Like we're in central Kentucky right now, and for those of you who don't know, it's not the same as Eastern Kentucky, is it, Glenn?
It's not at all.
It's a different world, and so
it really is. Yeah, there's documentaries that will really make your head spin on some of the real deep pockets of Appalachia.
That's right. And so what I hear in your story is skateboarding as a thing to do, but then also as a culture to exist in, and then also music as a thing to do, but then as a person that you become as a musician, are in some ways these little portals into a different part of the world.
100%. Not only that, they gave me something that I could give myself to. I'm so grateful that I had those things. I'm so grateful that I wasn't cool in school. I'm grateful that, not like I had a hard time. I didn't have a hard time. But like I didn't have things to distract me from skating. Like I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about anything else. Like nothing was worth it to me as much as those things.
It's interesting that you frame it that way, because for me, when I was growing up, skating, that's the cool kids.
Oh yeah, not where I'm from.
What did they think? They just think Glenn's lost it?
No, I don't think. No, well, I don't know what they thought. Fair, but I don't think so. I don't think so. I wasn't like a social pariah. I wasn't like a social pariah. But
everyone hisses your name.
There wasn't anything cool about skating. I mean, like also, this is Berea. That's where I went to school. I grew up in Big Hill. There's no school in Big Hill, obviously. We had to go to Berea. It certainly wasn't cool. I wasn't like I said, I wasn't like an outcast, but I also didn't really have. I had skating, but that was a good world. It was a good world to have because I loved it. There were a few skaters, but they kind of came and went. But for me, it was like my life.
Yeah.
And it was a good life, I have to say, because I got so serious about it. I found my first, we have amazing community here at the Vineyard, Campbellsville, like amazing community.
Yeah.
The truth is, my first taste of real community, like what we know as real community, that first taste of real community I found in skateboarding. And I don't know how easy that is to find as a youngster, but I found it.
Yeah. So like a skate crew in Lexington?
Lexington.
Yeah.
That's where I found my real skate fam. Yeah.
That's rad. Okay, so let's switch gears back to music here for a second. And I just want to get it documented on the pod. When's your record coming out?
Okay. So,
by the way, this is sort of an inside joke between Glen and I. So Glen has a record.
No. I've got no. We're you got to bring me back on, okay? Because I need the community's help.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
well, this is the beginning.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So tell everybody, what is this record and when's it coming out?
Okay, it's cool. This is a fun project. It's definitely a passion project, but I'm excited about it. It is a record that Sam Crabtree and I wrote.
Yes.
We wrote the whole thing in my back living room, and we wrote 34 songs, and it was, I don't even know how to tell you. It was fun. It was such a life-giving experience, because it's always, creating good or bad, there's something in it that is, like a wellspring.
And Sam's just a fun person.
For sure.
Yeah.
And well, also to that point, like, you can't create chemistry. And Sam and I really did have chemistry. I'm not saying I love everything we came up with. Of course not. We wrote 34 songs. But there's something about having an ease with your co-writing partner where, like, there's literally nothing that is on or off the table. It's all good. And we can do whatever. And if someone doesn't write something that the other person doesn't like, okay.
Let's just keep going.
Yeah, like, no one cares. But then also what we came up with together was also this interesting thing that, like, I've never been able to manufacture in any situation. Like, we wrote songs that I really do love.
Yeah. So then you called the 34.
Yeah. So, okay. So we wrote the project, and then it was like, okay, well, this was fun. Okay. So the interesting thing about Sam and I's chemistry as co-writers, I can only imagine. I've been dear friends with him for, many years now, over a decade. So I know him well, and it's interesting. As good as our chemistry is as co-writers, I would hypothesize it would be the exact opposite as co-producers.
Yeah.
I just do not see us producing in, I don't know. I don't see it. But also, I didn't.
When it comes to pressing record,
I didn't commandeer anything, and
Sure.
I was totally open-handed. And I actually asked Sam. Sam was insanely sweet. It was actually a really sweet moment. I actually asked Sam with zero pressure, and I mean that. I wasn't going to be butthurt one way or the other, and I was just like, Sam, if it's cool with you,
yeah,
I want to produce the record.
Yeah.
And Sam, he literally didn't even wait a moment. He was like, of course. He was like, you should produce it.
Yeah.
It ended up being a moot point anyway because he moved away, but. For the record, we didn't know that at the time. And Sam was like, do it, take it, and do your thing. So we wrote all these songs, and it's a guitar record. It's like dream pop, shoegaze. It's fun.
For people who don't know what dream pop or shoegaze is, what does that mean?
It's guitars, lots of guitars for sure. It's a guitar record.
Like layers of guitars.
Yeah. Layers of guitars, guitar lines, textures, melodies. I like feeling something when who doesn't? I'm trying to think how to articulate.
I like being happy.
I like music that tastes like candy.
Okay.
I like dream pop. I like.
Give me a hook, right?
Yeah, or like. Here's the thing. I also, I also love the artsy, heady stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love that stuff. I do. I love Josh Ritter. I love R.A. I love Andy and John Mark and all that stuff. But I don't. Maybe this is just me. I don't think it's just me, but. Whatever. When I sit down and listen to music, it's like I don't always want to be eating a steak with like a side of like mashed potatoes and
yeah.
I don't always want that when I listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
And admittedly, this record isn't that. I think it's. I mean, I like it. I'm really proud of it. I think you kind of nailed it. You've come into the studio and listened to snippets here and there, and you once said something, I don't know if it was on social media or if it was to me, you said something like guitars, kind of happy, kind of sad. And I was like, man, that kind of nails it.
No,
they're kind of happy, kind of sad guitars, and the songs are like that. Like I'm telling you, this record, I love it. I think it's so fun. Like some of the songs are silly.
Mm-hmm. Some
of the songs are like ridiculous. Some of them are really sad.
Yeah.
Like really sad.
Yeah.
And it goes here and there, and I love it.
Yeah.
And actually, this is kind of interesting. And whatever, maybe I shouldn't say this, but you asked me about the record. This is something I am very proud of about it.
Mm.
And to be completely fair, I could also see this being a critique. But this is something I'm proud of. So somebody sent me something, and they were like, hey, have you heard this band? I'm not going to throw any shade because that's just stupid and not worth it. And it doesn't matter. I can't even remember the name. But I pull it up, and I listen, and I'm like, how would I articulate this? It's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, and it's kind of cutesy, but it's also like not quite making it. And so it comes off as like kind of cheesy. This sounds really mean. I'm not being mean.
No.
It's talented, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what I mean? It's like I see what you're trying to do, and it just barely falls shy. And since it falls shy, it kind of like misses the whole thing. And in that moment while I was listening to that, I was like, oh man, that actually makes me really proud of my record because, and like I said, to be fair, this could be a critique, but to me, this record, it's never trying to be anything that it's not ever for one moment. And I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like a fun, beautiful record.
Yeah.
Filled with pretty guitars. And
there's a million guitars in it.
And songs that, you know, are fun and songs that are sad and, you know, a little bit of this and that.
Okay, but back to my original question. When's it coming out? Because
this
is our point of contention,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
When does it come out?
Man, I hit roadblock after roadblock. This is my first. Okay, whatever. Yeah, excuses. So this is what I'm trying to do because I need help for sure. I am trying to get plans to get a Kickstarter together, and I've got a few leads. I've got some things I'm scratching, and I'm trying to get a couple singles in the bag mixed out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then after I kind of have a bit of a roadmap,
yeah,
I am going to, I'll start releasing some stuff. I'll drop a Kickstarter. We'll reach out to the community and be like, hey guys, help me finish this.
That's right. That is right.
Help me finish this record.
Yes, man. Listen, we want to help you finish the record.
Yeah, I hope
That's
so.
That's the thing. We actually do. I want this record out in the wild. I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. You know, it's by no stretch of the imagination a perfect record. There are a few of those, but I do think it is. I do think it's a fun record.
That's it, man. Well, and here's what I like about it. It sits in its own little world, you know, like that shoegaze pop thing is a different sort of thing.
It is,
and
sure.
And it kind of sits in that world.
It is, yeah.
And at least for the songs that I know that I've heard, this is going to be a great record just to have on. Like you're just like you're doing something in your house, walking from room to room, and it's just kind of around you. This is a perfect record for that.
Yeah,
I don't think you have to sit in front of your speakers with your notepad out.
No.
Taking notes on this record.
No, it's not. No, it's not that. And I will say one good thing that with the time that it took was, of course, you know this, you're a songwriter. It's like nothing reveals your song like the cold light of the morning, and the cold light of the morning doesn't necessarily come the next day. You know,
yeah, time.
I feel like is the ultimate gavel drop on like, oh, do I still like this? Do I still? And the cool thing was, and this was actually validating as a producer. The cool thing about the time was there were songs in this project that never left me. At the beginning of the project, I gave my band honestly a pretty decent amount of autonomy in like helping choose. There were even like a song or two I was like, oh man, okay. But I was just like, I mean, you know my band, they're freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they're no jokes. So I'm like, oh, if they don't really like it, then whatever. We missed it. And I literally listened and I just, all right, I hacked it. But then, of course, it's been this and that and the other, and it's taken a long time. And then some of these songs didn't leave me. And then I was just like, oh, no, I still love this song. And then eventually I would get the idea of like, okay, this is what I want to do. So far, without fail, pretty much everyone, like the team has acquiesced and been like, oh man, this is really cool. And that was really validating. And there were several songs, like as in, I mean like 3 or 4 that I ended up adding and I don't regret. And I'm actually glad that they actually didn't end up on the threshing floor.
Yeah.
Like a lot, like 2 of them are 2 of my favorites, honestly, in the whole project.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is, and especially if you let a band have some say, it's just more fun to play music that everybody's excited about.
For sure.
Right. Like,
and to be
bringing something that we all feel
these
great
others
about.
probably weren't properly fleshed out, and we probably in pre-pro weren't like ideas weren't happening, and so it just felt dead to them. And of course, they hadn't spent time with it like I had, and I was just like, okay, it doesn't deserve to make it, whatever. But then all this time passes, I'm like, I still hear something in this.
And I can't also help but think that when you're making a record, you're really making a world.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're creating a novel or a place we go, right?
I agree.
So,
That's why I love dream pop and shoegaze. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at here is, especially when you're negotiating things with like your band, or like what songs should we do, or what songs should we not do, and then the band says, okay, we're excited about these 6 songs or whatever, these 8 songs, and you begin to work on them, and as you work on them, you're creating the world.
For sure.
Which expands consciousness. It expands people's vision for, I didn't think this song fit in this world, but now I see, because I didn't understand the world we were making.
Right.
But now this song makes sense in the world we're making, right? And so that actually makes some sense to me.
So that brings me to kind of the love-pain relationship I have with this record myself, is that most of what you're talking about, I bore out in the cave in the studio.
Yeah.
Like I was finding as I was going, as I was tracking, as I was recording and producing, like, and I wrote so many new parts and lines, and that, yeah, it ended up becoming like this place that I discovered. It, you know, and then of course the pain was in dealing with taking the pickaxe and doing it, a lot of it alone. When
That's
I did,
okay.
I wasn't ready. I really wasn't ready. I didn't realize what I was biting off when I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to produce it. I mean, that was so stupid, but you know.
Yeah, but think about what you've learned.
No, that's it. That's it. You know,
You've
sometimes I'm
learned.
like sad that like this batch of songs was the altar of sacrifice, but then it's also like now I'm like doing stuff for other people, stuff that I'm proud of. I'm legit
Yeah.
that I would not have done, 2-3 years ago. But now I'm like, yeah, for sure, I'll make a record for you.
That's
I'm
right.
totally fine.
Well, okay, so I think maybe there's a couple things we should just pick up here. One would be, these songs are not worship songs.
No.
So they sit outside of the space of like your job.
Granted, I
here.
love that question, because it's also, I mean, it's like that line between worship and sacred. But yeah, they're not worship songs.
Yeah, it's not Sunday morning congregation.
No.
So it sits outside of your job here, which I think is interesting. And I'm really happy that you're writing and making things that sort of extend beyond, and I'm using air quotes here, the work that you do here.
Right. Yeah, this is just an indie rock record. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that we're sowing something into your life, but I also love that we're sowing something into this community. And then when we talk about community, like even bigger, like the Campbellsville, Kentucky community.
Oh man, 100%.
Like you're going to put something out there that's bigger or wider, I should say, than just maybe what we do on Sunday morning.
Right.
And for me, that's really interesting.
Right.
Yeah, and I hope it encourages other worship leaders or musicians or songwriters to go, okay, yes, definitely write things for Sunday morning.
Sure.
I mean, I help give some leadership to Vineyard Worship. We're a publishing company. Please send me great songs, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I hope people hear in your story the freedom to go do another thing.
Oh yeah. I feel I feel permission to say it. One of my favorite worship leaders ever said it, Ryan Delmore, on this podcast. But he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I don't, it's like I don't love a lot of worship music. I don't listen to like a lot of worship music." And
Yeah.
it's like, I do listen to worship music, but it's like that's not what I'm listening to all the time.
Yeah.
And don't read for that some sort of indifference or what is the word I'm looking for? Like I'm being sincere in what I do. I'm being
Yeah.
sincere in what I do here in our community, on stage with the team. And also, I didn't want to make a worship record. I wanted to make a dream pop record.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to make.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. And also, I mean, we just need music for different moments. I mean,
Right.
and I don't even think that is a negative compartmentalization.
Right.
We need like worship music. When I think of worship music, at least for me, when I'm talking about in that little category I'm talking about Sunday morning congregational things that everybody in the room sings together.
Sure.
That connect us to God and also connect us to the gospel and connect us to one another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that's a very specific thing, especially when you're expecting the whole room to sing it together.
For sure.
Right. But then there's also, we need like Monday night making dinner music, and we need like music to go to school and drive our car with. And it can be infused with all of these themes in all kinds of different ways. But maybe it doesn't have to be produced in a way where the end goal is we all sing together.
Right.
And for me, though, that's not overly compartmentalized, and there's a freedom in that. And I love that some of our worship leaders and just our musicians are like diving into that more.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, and I don't even know how long one could analyze this and how many different layers they could pull off it, but whatever that kind of thought is between beauty and divine and it's like the face of God is implanted on humanity. Like
Yeah.
he's in what a lot of people are doing, even if they don't know it.
Of course he is.
Even like he doesn't need us.
No.
He does, doesn't. He's not petty, I don't think.
I hope God is not petty. This has been one of the hallmarks of my theology, by the way.
I think he's way less petty than I grew up thinking.
I think that is, man, that's one of my stories for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize, God is not petty. He's not a small person.
It wouldn't make sense.
No. You're right. Even places like beauty and creativity, which I don't love that word, but it's fine. But just the idea of making things and the way that made things are so attractive to us. This is still one of the things I don't understand necessarily about human beings. I feel it, but I can't articulate it.
Okay.
Like our fascination with made things.
Right.
Like even
yeah.
Like even above your head right now, I have these paintings that I bought from you. You and I traded.
Yeah. Those are good pieces.
Oh, they're super sick. It's this. They're very cool. Like Jesus and Mary. I don't know. They're from the 1800s, out of some Catholic church. I don't know. They're amazing, and they're like gilded, and they're so beautiful. And I don't know why I'm fascinated by them. I know a person made them. I know that's not Jesus. I know that's not Mary. It's not even close.
No, Caucasian.
They're completely European.
Yeah.
They have burning hearts. I mean, it's, Jesus's wounds are very sanitized, but I have a fascination with them, and these have been
beautiful.
And they've been in my office for a year, and I still love them.
Yep.
And I've got this sign our friend Brent Burden got for me. He picked it off of a guy out in eastern Kentucky somewhere whose father was a revivalist, a tent revivalist.
Yeah.
The sign says Jesus saves, and it's made with like reflective tape, and it's probably made in the 40s or 50s.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. But why do we love things that we like that are made by other people, and it fascinates us, even if we know what it is? It's like, I know that's wood, I know that's tape, I know it's black paint.
Well, just knowing that someone sat and poured over the thing that you're still enjoying, especially if you're talking about vintage and antique, like that someone like created and poured over this thing that's still being enjoyed today, that will never not be cool, ever.
But to me, the fact that it is cool, it's such an interesting part of our like humanness. And this gets down into songs. Like certain songs will never get old for me. They are perennial. I love that we're pushing towards here, trying to have a culture at our church, but then, wider in the Vineyard and in any church, where people are picking up this idea of do the thing that's in your heart, make something, give a gift, whatever it is. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, man. But you still haven't answered the question, when's it coming out? Like roughly, just give me an idea. Document it,
okay,
baby.
So
spring? I don't know.
I'm working with John right now on a single. Like,
okay.
Right now. Like I've gotten the first one mix back. I sent him notes a couple days ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is like number 2.
Okay.
No, this is like number 3.
Sick.
So, like I said, I'm trying to get a couple mixed out of pocket, and then I'm going to throw out the net and see if I can get some help. But after I get this one back, I think I want to see, I'm going to peruse through the tracks. I'm trying to get kind of a wide berth of like, because a lot of these songs, like, they're similar but different. I think in a way that like is still cool and they'll work cool together. So I kind of want to get a wide berth of kind of sonic feels, for singles. And then after I feel like I have like 2 or 3 that I'm like, I like this succession. And then I'm going to do a music video. I'm going to do a single, and I'm going to do a Kickstarter, and I'm going to drop them all at once.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
And hopefully before the end of the year, I just need to get some more details on like, I want to try to raise money for vinyl.
Yeah.
Because this would definitely be a fun record like that. Yeah. I just need to get a few more details worked out. I need to get a couple more singles mixed. John and I need to get a couple more things worked out in that regard. And then I need to figure out some mastering stuff. And then I need to figure out Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So some mastering details, Kickstarter details, a couple more singles, and then we'll drop. And I got to do a little bit more editing on the music. Well, not me, the videographer people. We got to do a couple more things, but it's pretty much done too. Music video is pretty much done.
Nice. Well, soon, people. That's what I'm
That's
hearing.
right. Soon.
Yeah. Also, it's funny, isn't it, when you start, you're like, okay, I want to write some songs. So you write your songs. You're like, I want to record the songs. So you start learning how to record. You get them recorded. Then you're like, now I have to learn about mixing, mastering, videos.
No, can't do it.
Vinyl, like all the things.
It's like, that's the thing. And then, of course, I have a couple small businesses. I work here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I only can work on music. It would really be a different story if that were the case.
Yeah.
But it's just not my life. And then, of course, my wife is at home with the toddler, and she's pregnant now.
Woo.
Oh, I guess that was news.
Yeah, that's new. That's fresh.
Yeah, so I got number 2 on the way, and it's just like, I can't work. I'm just not a full-time artist, so I just got to do it as I can.
That's a great part of your story too. I hope that's inspiring to people. You can have.
I hope it's inspiring someone. Certainly not me.
But what I hear in it is you can have some jobs.
Yeah.
Jobs with an S.
Yeah.
You can have a kid and one
3,
on the way with a wife and some things. You have a life.
Yeah, I do.
And you got a dog.
I do. Huckleberry Finn. Yeah.
Yeah, old Huck, man. And so you got this life, and you can still be an artist.
Yep.
That's a great part of your story.
I agree 100%.
Okay, so why don't you just tell people, what do you got to do to be an artist and have a life?
Well,
what is that? I mean, like even just practically, what does it look like? Does it look like more scheduling? What does it look like?
Okay, practically, you're definitely going to have to get more scheduling. And that definitely was easier pre-child number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I've hit quite a few roadblocks, and some of them of my own doing because I produced it myself and I wasn't ready. Ended up being a good thing that I threw myself into the fire, but
yeah,
I didn't realize the degree to which I wasn't ready. I was just like, cool, I think I can produce because I have, I've been doing this for a minute now.
Yeah, you have ideas.
Yeah, and I hear things and I can play guitar and I can arrange and whatever, but the technical side was harrowing. It still is from time to time.
Yeah.
But so that all those roadblocks and then of course the other work it's why it's just been tough. It's been a tough road.
Yeah.
How does someone do it? I would say a couple things. Okay, so from a practical standpoint, yeah, for sure, the scheduling thing, for sure.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when me and Sam wrote this project, thank God for our wives, because you think about one day out of the week that's no humble offering, you know. You only got 7 days in the week, and then we have wives, and they gave us one of those days, like, do your thing.
Yeah.
So we were intentional about scheduling, and we got together religiously once a week for the day, and there were no rules, save for we're not leaving until we've written a song, good, bad, or ugly.
I love that. I love like
Like-
we're not you're not going home. No one will eat until
Right.
we, until we get a song.
And that's what we did for 8 months.
There you go.
34 songs. So the intentionality is not to be trifled with. And then on a more kind of subterranean level, I would say always consider why you're doing it.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
You think about the generation of musicians ahead of us. Of course, it was such a different world, and this hasn't gone away. There's always been this thing of like, oh, being a musician or an artist at least can have like this maybe kind of, and I think it's largely imagined, but this kind of cool factor, or like there's something cool, you know, about somebody doing that type stuff. But it's like, that's all imagined. Why are you doing it? Why are you making music? You have to do it for yourself. Like, if you don't love it,
If you don't love the process, is what I'm hearing.
you won't.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like you have to eschew anything else. Like, because, and it's not that those are the reasons I do music. Of course not. I started before I was double digits. But you know, you learn over time, like, oh man, this is like another job. There have been times where I've like written for, I don't even know how to describe it, but I don't think I was positioning myself in quite the correct pose. Not that there's anything bad with discipline. You got to do that. You got to write when you don't feel like it. But I've definitely written stuff that it wasn't even necessarily doing it for me, and I just did it anyway and kind of let it go. And then it's like, that's deeply unsatisfying, right? Versus when you figure out how to create something and you're doing it for yourself and you're creating it with the goal of, I want to create something. Okay, perfect example, this record that Sam and I wrote. Like, I remember early on in the process, which I'd already made a record before, Sam, he randomly stops and he looks at me. He's like, hey man, what do you want to do? It was completely random. It was like mid-write session, right? And it was maybe the third one. You know, we met for 8 months. It was early on when we realized, okay, this is kind of fun and we're scratching onto something. And at one point he just stops. He's like, what is it you're wanting to do? And I didn't even think about it. Like, it was like when the doctor hits your knee with a hammer, right? I didn't even think. I immediately said, oh man, I want to write something that I like, that I love and like myself, that I listen to. I was like, that's the goal. And then I even said, doubling down, I was like, dude, if we make something that I like and I'm into and literally nobody on planet Earth likes it, but I do, it's still mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I said that to him. And it was like, there was something that definitely clicked in that. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, there's one burden that you could take on, but there's also another burden you could take off in that, you know. You can definitely let go of any of the white noise. Like, I just want to make something that I like because, well, think about our friends, you know. I can't write like Silicone Boone. I can't write like, John Mark McMillan. Or it's like, okay, that's okay. It really is okay. I can still make good stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's lots of definitions of good.
That's true too. And the truth is, a lot of people maybe wouldn't latch onto my music, but that doesn't mean,
Yeah, it's not just. Yeah, the value of art is not just external validation.
No, for sure.
But because we do make it, and because we take such great pains to not just write the songs, and even in your own journey and story that you've been telling here, you've made great pains to record the songs. Like, so even the act of recording is in some ways tapping in on some deep-seated human desire to share it with other people.
Right.
So it can't, on one hand, it can't just be about external validation.
Right.
But on the other hand, you and I both know you want to share it with the world. You're trying to make some sort of connection, right?
In the same breath of saying that, it's like, it's impossible to 100% separate yourself from that entirely. Of course, you want people to enjoy your music.
Yeah.
Right. But that cannot be the end.
You got to have a little Bob Dylan in there somewhere.
It just can't be the end goal. Like, I feel like, Well, okay, then also practically, like, if you don't like it,
Who will?
who's gonna like it?
Well, I mean,
who else is gonna like it?
well,
Nobody. That's
well,
the answer.
I mean, here's the thing. Maybe, but Glenn, it's the internet.
That's
I mean,
true.
maybe there will be some people who like it, and maybe the real curse is,
You've made something you don't.
and a lot of other people do. And then all of a sudden, people are like, Glenn, make another record like that last one. And you're like, I hated that record.
You know, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It makes me think of one of my favorite bands of all time, Starflyer 59, like Jason Martin. He, you know, his first 2 records were like pretty shoegaze.
Yeah.
And he just kind of got bored and he stopped. And I still love those records. Since he changed, it's still amazing. Like his records are unbelievable. But he just like, oh, I'm bored with that. I'm going to do this now.
Yeah, I love it when artists change over time.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see people develop and not just play the same trick.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
I don't know if I answered that well, but
No, I
that's
love it.
one thing that I've found is like, okay, I have to keep going till I find something that like it scratches it for me in some way or another, and then I can try and develop it on the back end.
Yeah,
to maybe round it out more, but I have to be into it.
yeah, I think that's important. That's huge. Well, Glenn, hey man, thanks for the conversation. We were going to talk about some other stuff, but we're not.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we just kind of went with it.
No, that's good. This is more fun anyway. I had some notes scratched on my little phone.
Yeah, you mentioned something to me. None of it came up. I'm like,
No.
okay, well, all right.
Yeah, I mentioned something completely different. It was like really practical, and then we just fell into this, and this feels way better to me. So we're going here.
Okay.
We're rolling with it. All right, everybody. Hey, be looking out. Sometime soon, I don't know, this winter, early spring, Glenn's record with the band,
Always Endless.
Always Endless. It'll be hitting your eyeballs and then your ear holes.
Yeah, Instagram's just Glen Yoder, 1 N, not 2.
Yeah, that's right. Look him up. You'll find him. Anyway, Glenn, thanks for this, and thanks for telling your story.
I appreciate it.
All right, peace.
Hey everyone, Casey Corum here, producer of the podcast. Thanks for listening. As always, if you've been enjoying the podcast, here's a few ways you can help us. First of all, leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. This helps more people find us. Also, connect with us on social media. Instagram at the Ferment Podcast and Twitter at FermentCast. All right, everyone, thanks for listening. See you next week. Peace.